So, a slightly bizarre but interesting question from 1Q9A this week. As some websites increase their advertising space during difficult economic times, do you find that this kills off designer creativity? Interesting question. This whole issue of advertising is particularly interesting, and how we incorporate advertising onto our website. But actually, I think the question here is a broader one than just about advertising. I think the real question here is, do constraints constrain creativity? Do having constraints, do having limits, having things that you need to work within in some way damage creativity on our websites? I think the really important thing to say is we are designers, not artists. If you want to be somebody that works without constraints, go and become an artist. Artists can can create whatever they want without having constraints around it. I believe that being a designer is intrinsically linked to working within constraints. That's our job. We're about constraints. We're about creativity within constraints. Constraints of budget, constraints of time, constraints of branding in terms of what colours and typography we have to use, constraints of the medium itself. You know, websites have particular constraints about them. Business objectives, user needs, there are endless constraints that are placed upon us as designers. For us, constraints are our bread and butter, working within limitations, whether that's working with advertising space or whether it's working with, particularly difficult logos or whatever else. For us as designers, I believe that constraints actually encourage creativity, because we have to come up with creative ways to overcome and work within these constraints that are laid upon us. So I think we should be embracing the constraints of our medium and our job and accepting those. Yeah, great, we need to incorporate more advertising space on our websites. How do we do that? How do we do that in a creative way that doesn't make the user's life more difficult on the website? How do we deliver advertising that actually benefits the user? There are all kinds of challenges relating to our job, and it's those challenges that for me make my job exciting and encourage me to come up with more creative solutions.